Alright, welcome to another edition of the FantasyFix.com podcast. I'm your host, Brett Talley, and we're here to talk daily fantasy strategy on DraftKings for August 5th, 2014. Let's start with weather today. Really not any rain. I'm too worried about a couple of games where there looks like there's a slight chance of storms at the beginning of the game, but it should phase out quickly. As of, the night before, that's what it looks like. Maybe some isolated thunderstorms in Colorado, which is obviously a big one, but doesn't look like anything too scary. Really, there's no super hot weather games. There's no strong winds. So weather, not much of a factor today. All right, let's talk starting pitchers. I haven't really detailed my process in a while, but essentially what I do is just take steamer projections and cut them down to a per game basis, and then make a little adjustment for matchup. Then it gives me a projection for each pitcher for the day. That way I can figure out the best projected point totalers, and I can also figure out where there might be some value based on price. I tend to lean towards the value guys as opposed to the best starters of the day because I prefer to spend money on hitting. So best values today, I like Alex Wood against Seattle. Mariners pretty bad against left-handed pitching. I mentioned this the other day, but their right-handed bats they added at the deadline should help with that, but they still don't scare me. And that game's in Seattle, I believe, so good ballpark. Also like Lance Lynn against the Red Sox. Red Sox have been below average offensive team this year. Lynn comes out 5th in projected points for the day and the 8th best value. Then I also like Phil Hughes, who's the 6th best projected pitcher of the day, with the 2nd best value against the Padres, who we all know suck. If I was gonna spend more money on a pitcher, I'd probably spend it on Felix Hernandez. That said, I wouldn't put him in the same lineup where I was using Alex Wood since they're facing each other. I prefer him to Kershaw and Price. I actually have Hernandez projected to have the most points out of those guys, mainly because the Braves are not as good against right-handed pitching as they are left. And then if I was going to save some money somewhere, I might take a shot on Josh Tomlin. He's $6,200. He's got a super good strikeout minus walk percentage this year. So he's walked like less than 3% of batters. He is having some trouble keeping balls in the park. High home run rate, that's killed him, but he looks like he's got some decent underlying skills there. Reds are a below average offensive team, so that's worth a shot. If I had to go even cheaper, I guess I might look at Colby Lewis against the White Sox, but I don't feel good about that at all. I wouldn't want to go cheaper than Tomlin at $6,200. Alright, then looking at the pitcher projections to kind of get an idea about who some good stacks might be. Also taking a look at Vegas game lines to look for high projected game totals, as well as teams that are big favorites with at least average game totals that can give you some good targets for stacks. First one today, I've got Baltimore going up against Mark Burley, the lefty. Baltimore's basically league average against lefties, maybe a little bit better. They have Adam Jones and Nelson Cruz, who have mashed lefties this year, so I'd like to get them in a lineup. And then if they're hitting 3-4, I might like Delman Young, J.J. Hardy, and Steve Pearce if that's the 5, 6, 7 in that lineup, because Young, Hardy, and Pearce are all under $4,000. Pearce especially is good against lefties. That would leave you some money to spend on pitching if that was the core of your lineup. Also like the Cubs in Colorado, but also because they're facing a lefty, they're actually really good against lefties. Pretty well above league average. Not so much against righties, but in Colorado against a lefty, I like that. The guys I like the most are Justin Ruggiano, and Junior Lake, and they're going to hit like 5 and 8 in that lineup, so or 5 and 7 maybe. So that's a little bit tough to stack. But you go with Starlin Castro in the cleanup hole, then Ruggiano at 5. Hopefully Wellington Castillo at 6 or 7, and then Lake at 7 or 8, and you should be able to keep that stack from getting too far spread apart. Also like the other side of the hitters in that game, I like Colorado. They're also facing a lefty. Travis Wood going for the Cubs today. I like Arenado, William Rosario, and Drew Stubbs, all three righties. I'm hoping they're hitting 3, 4, 5 in that lineup, or 2, 3, 4. Rangers facing they're facing a lefty today, John Danks, and the Rangers hit lefties okay. And they've got three righties in the middle of their order, or 2, 3, 4. Elvis Andrus, Adrian Beltre, Alex Rios. That's where I'd be going there. And then I'd actually get on the hitters on the other side of that Baltimore game. Toronto crushes righties, and they're facing Bud Norris today. Their top 7 with Brett Lowry back should be like Jose Reyes, Melky, Bautista, Navarro, Juan Francisco, Colby Rasmus, Brett Lowry. They could all be in the lineup today. You can only start 6 hitters from one team in DraftKings lineup, because you have to have hitters from at least 3 teams in your lineup, and there's 8 hitter slots, so you can't go higher than 6. Take a look at that tomorrow. Figure out what probably their 1 through 6 is, and I would stack that. So just to recap, starting pitchers like Wood, Lynn, and Hughes as good projections and good value. David Price if you got extra money, and Josh Tomlin if you need to go cheap. And then for hitting, we like both sides of the Toronto-Baltimore game and the Cubs-Rockies game, and I could also see throwing the Rangers in there as well. So good luck to everybody tomorrow, and I'll be back later in the week with another podcast.